Hello, this is Mike from Shimino's Workshop. Here we have our latest commission. This is a Korbanth LS6 in V2 configuration, weathered. This is a Proffie NeoPixel Blade Plug. And we also have a NeoPixel 1-inch blade as part of the commission. Screw that off. We take out
Greetings, Exalted One.
the kill key. Put that back on. All right, so let's go over some of the features. So like I said, here we have, this is a Vaders Vault Blade Plug that I've added a NeoPixel and a PCB to. Well, I'll go over some of the hilt features, but as far as the electronics are concerned, obviously we have our behind the recharge port we have our speaker, 20mm bass speaker, 3 watt, 4 ohms. So even though it's a 20mm, should be plenty loud. Let's fire her up. I have 5 or 6 fonts on here. This is a KSith LS6 font. We got our smooth swing. We got our blade plug shine through. Auxiliary activation on top, auxiliary on the bottom. And if we hold the activation down for about a second, that'll play a soundtrack. And you can activate while it's playing. Okay, and then we can switch the tracks. I think sound fonts. I have 4 or 5 different sound fonts, light side fonts that the customer wanted to have added. We can cycle through those. I got blue on this one. The first ray was the light. The second ray is balance. That, I believe, is a cyan. Oh, that one's the light. Then the second one, I'm forgetting what the second font was, but so far we've had LS6, which is a Luke Skywalker from Return of the Jedi. We have a ray. We have a balance. We have the light. This one is sort of a whitish, pinkish. Smooth Jedi. This one is a battery level indicator. So when we have the blade in, we can see what the battery charge is. When I put the blade in, I'll demonstrate that one.
Luke Skywalker.
And then we're back to Luke Skywalker. So let me show you how we take the blade plug out and put a blade in. So this top emitter cap, we can take that off, and we have 2 blade screws. I haven't put the second one in, so we need an Allen. What I tend to do here, and it's probably a good idea, I don't know that this is necessary, but let's put the kill key in while we're swapping this out. Pretty sure it's not necessary, but we'll be on the safe side. Okay, so just undo that just a little bit. That slides out. You can see we have our PCB, custom saber shop. Put that over on the side. Okay, and then here you can see we have our Hilt PCB. We actually have 2 in there. I'll demonstrate in a second. Oh, sorry, I'm off camera. So the blade just comes in here like that. Okay, so a little bit of downward pressure on the blade to hold it in place, as we then take our Allen and tighten up the set screw. I'll have a second one for both sides. This way you get a good retention. What we should do here, actually, before we put the blade in, we put the emitter cap on. Okay, and then we can tighten this down. And then we can bring the emitter down, emitter cap down. Okay. I'll pull the kill key.
I'm a Jedi, like my father before me.
Okay. And then we can activate. Got a nice long 36-inch blade. Got a nice blue blade for Rey. This is the balance. This will be cyan. The light, this is like that whitish pinkish, nice and bright. And then here's Smooth Jedi. You can see all the way up here, batteries pretty much fully charged. And as the battery drains, the power indicator will creep down the blade. Okay. So I'm just going to take the blade off. It'll be easier to demonstrate some of the hilt features. Again, I'll play it safe. I'll put the kill key in. Now, technically, we don't have to take the key out. We can just twist it. Okay, so let's... Ugh. Okay.
Solo.
Okay. Now I'm not going to break this down completely, but I will show you where we can do a couple of things. So this hilt, the way it's been designed, is the emitter can detach from here, and this is one piece here. This can detach from the emitter and from the grenade section. Right, so we can now there's a wire running, or 3 wires running from the top emitter piece down to the bottom of this piece, but there's not a wire running from here all the way up. What I've done is I've used a PCB connector. So what that means is if we twist and pull this up, this is now disconnected. So if we fire up the blade, as we see, this won't light up. But as we come down and get that connection, we can see. So I wouldn't recommend unscrewing these pieces up here. You can, you know, so I'll show you if we unscrew this. Okay, we can see our PCB on the bottom. So there's 3 wires going from this PCB up to the PCB that we saw when we took the blade plug out. And there's some slack in that wire, you know, so which is twisted to try to keep it in the state that it's in. But as you can see, this PCB will contact the PCB down here. And that PCB is then wired to the chassis. So here's our battery, and right up here is another PCB that would connect to this PCB. Okay. Now down here, this also slides out. I've locked it, so we can use our Allen to unlock. And then this also, so that'll give us access to the USB port, and probably impossible to see on this camera, but under the USB port is the SD card. So what we can do, now again, I wouldn't recommend you doing this unless you know what you're doing. But you can take that off, and that'll give you a little bit more room if you do need to connect this to a computer via USB, or get a pair of tweezers or needle nose pliers to get that SD card out. You can fit with a right angled adapter and hook this up to the PC if needed. As an end user, I don't think you should need to. Now this chassis is also not locked in. It's in there nice. It's nice and snug fit. But you can slide this chassis out. I do have a stock switch holder in here. There's some springs. Let's turn that kill key so that doesn't turn on. Okay. So there's one spring here, and there's going to be a second spring there. Now that's just to allow this, you know, so that it's not constantly pressing on the buttons. And when you do press it, the springs will push them back up. You can lift this switch out. There's going to be some wires. I'm not going to take it all the way out. You know, it is connected to some wires with some quick disconnects. So if you needed to take this chassis out, you'd lift this up. You would just take the quick connects apart. They're just header pins, and this will come off, and then you can push the other end of the switch wires down into the chassis, and then you can slowly take this chassis out. So I wouldn't say it's designed to be removable, the chassis, but it is removable in case we need to do some future maintenance on it. Okay, and then we just push the springs down. That spring's not in a good orientation. Let's see if we can turn that spring. Okay. Clamp is nice and snug. I did not have to. Some people will put double-sided tape on the bottom of the clamp card. This clamp is nice and snug. It's got a little bit of room, but those springs really help keep it in place. It's not going to fall out unless you push it out with some pressure. We can put this back on. Turn this.
I feel the good in you.
Okay. So now when we're ready to put this back on, we align that set screw with the groove that's in the hilt. I usually turn it all the way in till it stops, and then I back it out a little bit. Okay, so now that can turn nice and freely in that groove. And I like to lock it in place this way. When you're turning, when you're trying to turn this thing's not turning, or if you're just playing with the saber, this thing doesn't want to turn on you. So as we can see down here, we have a second set screw that is just going to lock into that channel, not the groove, but right onto the hilt steel itself. Doesn't have to be completely tight, just snug. This will keep that locked in place, and this can still unturn to get access to the kill key. And then the same thing up here, right? We can back out this set screw. Which would let us take this top right off. Right, so you can see in there, you can see the top. And then the same thing. We set this set screw into the groove and go all the way in till you feel a little bit of pressure, and then back it out just a little bit. And that'll allow it to glide freely. Okay, these are great little sabers. These hilts. In V2, obviously, you don't. There are gull wing doors down here that in the V2 configuration does not allow you to have access to because the clamp card's on it, or I'm sorry, the clamp is on it. But in the V1 Hero configuration, those gull wing doors would open, and you can do a reveal. Do anything under there really, but pretty nice design. I like these. All right, well, I hope you enjoy this. Should be shipping this out this week. All right, thank you.